Hi guys, welcome to the Challenge Podcast, the show dedicated to transforming your life. I'm Coach Steve.
And I'm Coach Helen, and we're excited to bring you the best information on exercise, nutrition, mindset and health. Let's get on with the show.
What's up guys, Coach Steve here and welcome to the Challenge Podcast. In today's episode, we're going to be talking all about injuries with Daniel Wood. Daniel, welcome to the podcast.
Hi Steve.
I'm excited to spend the next half an hour or so chatting to you about injuries and the human body. But Dan, do you want to start by introducing yourself and who you are, where you're from and what you do?
Yeah, sure, Steve. I suppose to start with, I'm a person who's fascinated by the body's amazing ability to adapt, heal and function. And I guess as a profession that led me into osteopathy. And so now I run a small business down in Geelong. I've been an osteopath for over 10 years now and travelled all around Australia, working under different osteopaths and learning as much as I can about the body's ability to adapt, heal and function, I guess. Now I also do a bit of work at the uni as a clinical educator. And outside of that, I guess I'm a person who loves sport, loves exploring, loves hiking, loves getting out in nature and loves just kind of making the most of things, I guess, is me in a nutshell.
So a human body lover, I would say.
I would definitely say that, and almost a little bit fanatical about loving and learning new things about it. Listen to lots of podcasts, just try and get my information from everywhere. And yeah, it just continues to fascinate me, to be honest.
Now, you said that you're an osteopath, and I'm sure some people listening to this have no idea what an osteopath is. How would you define an osteopath, or what are they? What do we do?
Well, pretty much in a nutshell, I would say osteopaths try and put the body in the best position to heal itself. So we use a wide range of techniques and advice and education to pretty much let your body heal itself. So we're registered health professions in Australia. We all do 5 years of uni or 4.5 and registered under APRA. And then we're kind of trained to diagnose and then also treat musculoskeletal injuries amongst other kind of pathologies, I guess.
Yeah, right. Interesting. Well, you talk a lot about loving nature and movements and the human body and how it functions. How and when did you choose that you wanted to become a healthcare professional and an osteopath?
Well, I guess like everything, it's never a one moment thing. And I guess it started pretty young for me. I've always, as I said, always been fascinated in the body's ability to adapt, heal, and then particularly function. And I think that comes from a very competitive nature as a young kid. So I love sport, love basketball, mountain bike riding, a whole lot of things like that. And I guess we were lucky enough I think it was around grade 6 or 7, we had some human movement guys come out to the school and they started talking about this thing called plyometrics, which kind of breaking down as a way to train the body to get it to work a bit more explosive. And as a lover of basketball, I'd always, and played at a point guard, anyone that's seen me, I'm short, I'm under 6 foot, so always wanted to be able to dunk the ball though. And these university students at the time were kind of talking about you can make your body do that. If you do a certain program and train it a certain way, your body will adapt and all of a sudden you'll be able to jump higher and hopefully dunk the ball. So of course, grabbed it with both hands and took that away. And back then there wasn't kind of quite the access to internet. It was dial up. I am pretty old. But these guys gave me some documents and I followed it and ticked it off each day. And look, it took a while, 6 months, 8 months, but next thing I knew, I could actually dunk the ball. And it was, I suppose from there, it was like, wow, this body of mine's pretty, like you're not just left with what you're born with, you can actually change and adapt it. It might take a bit of work and might take a bit of education and knowledge, but you can really do some, that's not an amazing thing, it's a great thing, but you can really get some awesome changes out of your body if you know how to use it and adapt it. And I guess then leading into lots of science at school, always loved my biology and PE and things along those lines. And then I suppose as most people do, as we went on, I had things that started stopping me being able to do that. So had some pretty decent injuries from cricket in the lower spine, and then started kind of, I suppose, really asking that a question around how the body heals itself and what can I do to get myself better right? Is it diet? Is it exercise? Is it stretching? So physios, chiros, osteos, myos. And I guess the philosophy in a way of osteopathy really resonated with me. And look, I'm talking when I was 17, 18, so nothing like I jumped around a lot, but I fell into osteopathy and then did the 5-year course and loved every moment of it, mate. Great friends, really enjoyed kind of treating people and helping people out. And then I guess graduated and then really started learning and spent the next 10 years post that learning more and more and more and more about anything and everything that do with the body that I can, I suppose, optimize in a way to get people healthy. And yeah, that's how I became an osteo, I guess, in a broad nutshell. Nothing's ever quite as simple as I saw one and I bet become an osteo. there was a whole range of things I was tossing up. But yeah, at the time, osteo was what I was interested in. Yeah. So went down that pathway. And as I continue to learn, be able to do what I want to be able to do in osteopathy, I'll stay there.
Wow, I love it. Interesting. The question, can anyone dunk a basketball? Is anyone able to do that?
When you look at, I suppose when you look at the NBA and this guy is like Muggsy Bogues, this is probably showing my age, just going back to the early 90s, short guy who can dunk it and is 5 foot, like next to nothing. Yeah, there's obviously some limitations in the body, but I suppose that's what I'm all about and really interested in. If that is your goal to dunk a ball, let's do everything we can to prove that you can't. Not just go, I can't do it now and stop there. Let's get your diet right. Let's get your training right. Let's kind of put a plan in place and try and get from point A to point B. And I guess that's what I do in osteo every day. People come in with, they're at point A and they want to get point B. A lot of that time that's around pain, as my back hurts, my knee hurts, my neck hurts. Or I have a lot of athletes that I see that are like, I literally just want to be able to get through, like bowl the ball quicker or hit my golf drive further. And through biomechanics and movement of the body and a bit of a knowledge how things work and training loads and working with PTs as well, not just, I don't do it all myself. I'm not going to, I don't fix everything, but knowing when certain other people to get involved, hey, I'd much prefer to say, hey, we tried it all and it didn't work. And then I can say, okay, maybe your body can't do it. Rather than say, oh no, you're this height or you're too old, you're too, I don't really like that. I think we've got so many examples around the world of people achieving absolutely amazing things with some massive limitations that I think too often we let small limitations kind of stop us from achieving what we want.
Yeah. So I guess as a healthcare professional, people often think that they would wait to see a physio or an osteo or a chiro or a healthcare professional in general until they're really injured or they're broken. And you said that you would help people, achieve their goal, let it be to, kick a football further or to jump higher. And a lot of the times it's that maybe pain's involved. So how would you describe how you treat people in a clinic setting? It sounds like you're very goal-orientated and less of sticking to, someone's broken and we're going to fix them.
Yeah, I think that's probably pretty true. And that's an adaptation. I probably started very much with it's broken, let's fix it. But that I don't think that model's super helpful all the time. Sometimes it's very, if we can get a real goal of what we're trying to achieve when you come in, we can really have a great measure of where we need to get you to. And for some people, that might be, as you said, hitting a golf ball further. It might be picking their grandkid up off the ground. It might be able to work through a whole day and still have time to be able to come home and throw the basketball. Whatever that goal is, if we can, I suppose, if we can get that in place, I think that's kind of better than just going, okay, you're in pain, let's get you out of pain. Because we'll probably talk to it maybe a little bit later when we talk more specific on injuries. But pain's a bit of a warning sign. It's something that we're very lucky our body gives us, because otherwise people that don't experience any pain don't live very long. There's people in the world, believe it or not, that don't experience pain. They don't live much past 35. So it's a very important thing in the body, and it's important to listen to, but it's also just part of the picture. So we've got to realise, okay, why is that warning sign going off? Why isn't our body adapting to the load we're putting on it? Why is it saying, hang on, listen to me? Why is it sore? And then putting in place a thing to hopefully, so next time we don't just stop, wait for the pain to go away and start again and do exactly the same thing, get back to the same spot. We go back, we get the pain away, which the body is really good at doing just by itself. And then we put some things in place so it doesn't happen again. And then, okay, then that's how you get to being able to hit your goals, because we're not hitting that brick wall and the same brick wall each time. We're looking at a way to potentially either walk around it or jump over it.
Well, talking about like pain and injuries and I guess goal-specific treatment, like within your clinic, what are some of the most common things that you would help people with? Is it, I can't pick up my kids, or is it someone that's trying to jump higher or to, squat more weight? What kind of things do you help people with?
Definitely most of my patients are pain. It's just the way it is. It drives us to do something about it. Yeah. Some people are super proactive. The ones that are in that kind of realm tend to be more, I guess they've hurt themselves before and they know they get the early warning signs and they come do something about it. But most of the time it's pain that will drive people to come in. Now, the nature of osteopathy is that not everyone knows what it is. So it usually takes a little bit of time for people to find us if they are going to find us. So that's getting better, mind you, and people are starting to use us more of a first option, which is great. But I guess that means a lot of what I see is that kind of overload, repetitive issue, got this pain going for a long time. It keeps coming back. It gets better. I get it again. Every time I do this, it starts hurting. And I guess that kind of leads into a whole lot of tendon problems that I see, like your rotator cuff, your Achilles issues around the hips. And then obviously low back pain and neck pain make up a huge percentage of what I see, because that's the base that a lot of these things work off. So if we're overloading those areas, that's where we'll see pain. And then, but it might not necessarily be that that's the issue, that's the area that's not working right. And that's my job, to help people find out.
Yeah.
And then hopefully work with their trainers and coaches and other people in their life to put something in place so we can get past that and get to a new goal and kind of keep progressing. Because unfortunately, as much as people, we like things to be linear, it's just not. You're going to have setbacks, and watch any of the documentaries on famous athletes. They've had massive setbacks. Michael Jordan has some of my favourite quotes in the world, and I'd highly suggest reading some of them. And it's all about his ability to kind of come back from failure rather than just always. And he's one of the most successful basketballers ever to play. So I think we got to be looking at pain and failure and injuries in a slightly different way. It's a bit of a warning sign, and just a need to adapt and change our path a little bit rather than to give up and my body's not right to do this.
Yeah. So if I, let's say, hurt myself playing sport of some sort and I went and saw you to help me throughout my pain, what would a normal treatment look like, and what steps how would you help me to overcome the pain that I'm in?
Yeah, good question. So I suppose, it starts very much with a history. So we come in, we ask a lot about how, what, why, when, how long it's been going on, what led to this. And it's really me trying to nut out is, why has your body decided that the best, particularly in pain, that the best thing to do here is to tell you to slow down and feel pain? And a lot of the time that can be a more complex question, that particularly in repetitive strain, than it kind of first seems. So obviously, okay, you're playing a contact sport, someone tackles you onto your neck and it hurt. That's pretty obvious. So, okay, we probably don't have to change too much in the background, other than we could maybe look at some technique things, or make sure you're wearing the right equipment, or if it's in the gym and you kind of did something where you just went straight into the heaviest deadlift you've ever done. It's like, okay, well, maybe it's a training issue. We just got to talk a bit more about that. So quite an easy fix. But a lot of the time it's people are doing a lot of things right, but they've just got this niggly pain that keeps coming back when they get to a certain stage. And so that requires a lot. I've got to gather a lot more information, I guess, to understand what it is we're doing, what it is we're not doing right. Sometimes you might be doing the warm-up, the technique right, but you're not doing the recovery right. Or sometimes you're doing the recovery right, but the technique's slightly off. Or sometimes it might be that we've never actually fully recovered that ankle injury. So the restriction in that ankle injury is meaning that your hips are having to do more work, which is why we're getting pain up there. So it's that history that gives me a bit of insight into that. And I guess the longer you treat, you get very good at picking up these patterns and seeing things in the past, but then jumping into an examination to see how your body moves. And then from that, I'm looking to use certain techniques, whether it be manipulation, stretching, dry needling, taping, exercise, to try and change the way the body moves. A lot of these things we now know work really well short term, and we can change and adapt pain. But then from that, it's like, okay, so when I release this and move this in that way, or strengthen that muscle up a little bit in that way, that changed the pain. Okay, well, maybe that gives me an indicator on what we need to work on moving forward, so that next time this doesn't come. So I don't know if that kind of makes as much sense as it does in my head, but pretty much. So say, for example, I was noticing that the ankle didn't have quite the range it needed to. And then I can do a few tests and change a few things and move it so the ankle doesn't have to move as far in the squat. So we put some things under the heel, and all of a sudden you can squat down a lot deeper. It's like, maybe it's not the hips that were causing the pain. Maybe this is more driving from an ankle. So from that, then, the way I work, got really good relationships with all the trainers and people in the area that these people work with. Okay, so what we need to do in the meantime is we're going to do your training using some kind of modification. Maybe it's a not quite as deep a squat, or it's a squat with the ankles lifted up. And in between that, we're going to work on your ankle mobility at home, because we know that'll take kind of your 3 to 4 weeks to adapt. We get that increased range in the ankle, and then long term, all of a sudden, we've kind of fixed that cause rather than just a symptom, and then we can progress. So next time, and then all of a sudden, we're getting back doing deep squats, and we know with progressive overload of the body, it adapts really well. Just ask any of the muscly guys and girls in the gym. If you progressively slowly do it and can do it regularly, you get amazing results. So, but injury can be a way that often stops that. And no one moves perfectly, but it's the ability to learn how to adapt and find what that cause is, I guess, is the big one.
Yeah.
And also patient understanding that is huge too. So, and me understanding, everyone understanding what it is, not just, do this. It's why you need to do this, because then you're much more, like most people, when they understand why they need to do something to get better, it's you do it.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you do it? Where if you don't understand, it seems very bizarre to be working on your ankle for your hip pain.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of time spent on educating that. And hey, that's probably me a little bit too. I like teaching, educating, talking, as you probably already noticed.
Yeah.
That's why I come to uni. I really enjoy that kind of communication side of things.
So I guess when we're looking at people who have a, let's say, dysfunctional squat and that's causing them pain, and we commonly as PTs suggest people to go to a stretch and foam rolling, it sounds like you're saying that the importance of education is really quite high, and understanding why you are doing a foam roll, or why you're encouraging a stretch, or why you're encouraging a certain movement. Would you say that's
definitely? And I think it's also really important to be specific. It's like there's nothing that frustrates me more than when someone comes in and they've got 45 minutes worth of stretching to do before they can work it. It's kind of how much of our knowledge are we really using? Like that's kind of more on the health professional side of it. It's like how much of our knowledge are we using if we're just saying work on everything? Like hopefully we can get a better plan of saying, hey, this is going to get the most bang for our buck here. Let's work on this to start with, and this is why you do it. And then we're going to measure that in 4 weeks' time. And if it's worked, it's worked. If it had, or 6, whatever the tissue change time is, if it works, great. If it doesn't, all right, well, let's go back to the drawing board and find something else rather than just keep piling on more and more. And then I think that comes into the kind of client-patient blaming kind of, oh, you didn't do your exercise. Yeah. Why didn't you do your exercise? Because if you found that you understood why it was important, a lot of the time, of course, you'd do it. You just do because you see the value in that, and it's changing your pain. You're feeling better from doing it. So they've got the right kind of area where, I think sometimes that's why I think education is so important. And also giving the right advice as far as not just telling people to do everything. It's like finding actually what is the issue, not just saying everything that could be the issue. That's more the role of, I guess, the healthcare professional. Is hopefully after 10, 15 years in the area, you start kind of being able to help people navigate so they don't just have to do everything.
Yeah. Now, with this challenge that we run, a lot of people, brand new to exercise, a big reason why they cannot complete the challenge is because they experience pain or suffer an injury of some sort. Are you able to speak about a few maybe tips that people could do to prevent injury, or like what you would suggest to someone who is starting a new exercise program and what they could do to minimize the chance or the risk of them hurting themselves, going into a gym environment or starting to run or exercise in general?
Yeah, sure. There's lots of tips. You only got to jump online and kind of look up tips to prevent injury. There's lots of things and easy things to do. I might go into some areas where I've got some real passion areas of, rather than just going the general ones, because there's some real basic ones like making sure the equipment's right, you're wearing the right clothes, right shoes, things like this, getting the right advice. But I think my number one tip, we'll start with number one because it's an easy one, is the appropriate warm-up. So we need blood going to these tissues. We need the tissues to be warm so they're more malleable, so they don't get as much pressure put on them. So look, just a basic warm-up at the start of everyone. Get there a little bit earlier and just warm your body up. It doesn't have to be hard. It's walking on the spot, swinging your arms around. Just getting some blood flow pumping through the body definitely is probably my number one.
Yeah, but before we move on, like with warm-ups, there's lots of talk about isometric warm-ups or static warm-ups versus dynamic warm-ups. So the difference between like a hamstring stretch and then like a leg swing. Would you suggest someone to just stick with a dynamic type warm-up, or would you suggest that someone does some stretching or simply just moving their body any way that they feel comfortable?
Yeah, so that could be another podcast in itself. Yeah. That is a massive area. But we can, I guess what I'm saying there is just that from a general advising of just getting the blood flow going is going to be important. Probably that one might be answered a little bit by a little bit of my second point, which is knowing your body. So everyone's going to be slightly different with when we're going into that real strategic warm-up, and it's going to be really important on what you're trying to achieve. So what you got, so it's very different for someone warming up on a treadmill, what they might need to do, to someone that needs to go into a real deep squat and wants to lift their absolute max. So and that's where the discussion about kind of swing throughs and static stretching and things like that comes in, because there is, after a static stretch, a slight amount of time where you won't lift as heavy as potential. Doesn't mean it's in the injury prevention world, though, maybe not as big of an issue. But yeah, I think we'll go down a real big rabbit hole with that one. So I might keep it at more just the warm up generally, get the blood flow pumping to the area, and then the actual type of warm up. That's probably a better one. It's got to be a little bit more specific to your body and what your goals are to achieve. So you're better off probably talking to either your trainer or a healthcare professional about that.
Good.
And sorry, that's a bit of a dodge, but it's just because it is so specific. Like every person that comes in is going to have a different answer to that. So giving that as a general one's probably
it's very goal specific.
Yeah, it will be. So, like, for example, the one we're using before, if it's someone that we've found that ankle mobility is an issue with, that's going to be the thing I'm getting them to target in their warm-up. There'll be probably a TheraBand around the ankle, and we'll do some kind of active kind of work into kind of dorsiflexion to kind of increase, which is kind of the bending of the ankle. So making sure that's more and warmed up a little bit more before they go into doing their squats and lunge, because short term we can modulate and change these things, and that would be that in that person's warm up, but then that would be absolutely useless for the next person that come into having their active warm up. So it'll be a little bit dependent on your body, and that's my number one tip: is know your body. So everyone's different, and knowing how your body moves so you can adapt that, I guess, to your training is a really important thing. And that's where having great trainers that you can talk to is going to be important. That's the value of good healthcare professionals that can kind of help you work through where you're moving. And yeah, I guess having people there watching what you're doing. This is a great way to prevent injury, is actually making sure we know our body and we have tailored warm-ups that can really reduce the excessive load on other areas of the body.
Interesting. So moving on from warm-ups, do you have any other tips that people could follow?
That was probably the only other one would be about getting that kind of progressive overload stuff right. Particularly if you're starting out for the first time, it's great you've signed up to a new program and you're going to go for it. But there's I suppose a lot of people will go for that kind of boom or bust kind of thing, where they'll train hard as they want, really, really good, motivated early, and then get really, really sore. And unfortunately, the body's just not built to adapt like that. A lot of the reading I've done, I suppose, and a lot of what's in the research, a lot of people know is that our body adapts to a slow increase of load. That really quick load, it just goes no, and that's when you'll feel pain. And to the stage now, like in the elite sports teams, like your AFL and things like that, they'll literally manage your load. They'll have on fire what you've done over the last 3 months. And if you've had a week off with a sore calf, then they won't push you as hard, even 3 months on, because of that. Because we've got to progressively build up your load to the body. So the last tip, I guess, is making sure we've got a good program. You don't have to go in there and lift the biggest weights on the first session. Spend that first week or so just making sure your techniques are really, really good, making sure you understand how to use the equipment, making sure you're going through a nice deep range, and you'll still feel some soreness after it, I guarantee. And then just progressively build that up, and the body will do what it does really well. It's adapt. It'll go, oh, okay, yep, I need to be stronger to do that. It'll lay down some more muscle. It'll make you a little bit more mobile. It'll burn some more fat. Whatever it needs to do to adapt. It's a pretty clever thing when we let it do what it needs to do. But yeah, that quick change is usually actually, when I'm taking my history, is what I'm looking for. Why did we put an increased load really quick through the body? And that's why.
So it sounds like a warm-up's really important, that load management's really important, and really learning your body and finding out what you need.
I think that would be a very good summary of what I just said.
Now, do you have any maybe movements that people could do to find out what their body needs? And we talk a little bit about like some quotation functional movements, like being able to touch your toes. Like, are there any like abilities that the human body needs to be able to do that people could try to do to find out if they're tight in their shoulders or if they're tight in their hips? Or how would you guide someone to learn more about their body?
It's a really interesting question, and one that's really heavily debated at the moment, is what is good function of the body? I think it's a really interesting area when you actually break down what functional movement is, because I think it's kind of a word that's been a little bit hijacked into functional movement will equal CrossFit and being able to squat and jump and twist and do everything you can. And yes, at a really top end, those people are highly functional at moving through life. But really what kind of functional movement is, when you look it up, I suppose as a definition, is it's just the ability to be able to do what you need to do in day-to-day life. It's functional as in it's what you need. It's not something you don't need, and it's the ability to be able to do it. So it can be very, very different from person to person. So for example, I suppose we could jump in to say someone that plays lawn bowls who might come in and see me. So for them, some functional movement tests I might do is an ability to do a lunge, so coming down like they would when they're rolling the ball, their ability to be stable on both feet. So we might do some balance tests through the ankles, because they've got to be able to do that before they roll it. Some range of motion movement of their shoulder, but it won't have to be above their head. It's just what they can do below the head. So making sure they've got that range that's kind of right through there. And then their ability to just walk from end to end and stand on their feet for prolonged periods of time. So that is a functional movement screen for that. That might be what that looks like for that person, because that's what they want to achieve out of that. And that's where the knowing the body comes back to being a really important thing. Then you can kick into, say, a tennis player. It's going to be like, Your balance is really important. Your ability to rotate, your ability to get your hands above your head is going to be really important. Your endurance is going to be really important. So it's kind of a whole set of different screens we'll do. And there's some really great companies around the world now that are actually coming up with better screens to kind of check this thing. So in a gym, so for most that kind of area, there's most people probably aware of like the functional movement screen, which is out and about now, which kind of tests your ability to squat and your ability to move through certain ranges with your shoulders so you could do most of the common gym movements. For golf, there's the Titleist Performance Institute, which looks at a whole set of movements you can do that are required in golf. And we can kind of say, okay, that's what you're needing through here. Let's work on these things to get you hitting the ball further. There's one for racket sports now. So the tennis, they have another set of screens, and they're all very different. Even swimming, different one again. The Swimming Australia put out a great set of screens we can look at of shoulder movement, ability to move through the trunk and legs to kind of pick up what kind of things might be important for you to train to be able to achieve that result. So that, again, it's probably the osteo in me that's going to get a little bit annoying where everyone's an individual. We've got to look at everyone different because they've got different goals and outcomes they want. And hopefully you can find a health professional that can help you with those things and say, okay, what do we want to achieve? Then let's do this, rather than, okay, let's try and do this because that's what person over there is doing. Well, that might not be important in your life. So why keep injuring yourself and making yourself feel sore trying to achieve a movement that won't change your life at all, won't make any difference? Let's just work on the things that are important so you live a better life. Because hopefully if that's your goal out of training, that's what it is. If your goal is to, I suppose, win Mr. Muscle Australia, something like that, and you're going to need every kind of muscle, you're going to need to be able to do most movements so you can train each and every single one of those muscles. But if it's just living a healthier, more happy life, you don't have to be able to do all the movements, just the ones that are important to your lifestyle. It's that. I think that kind of makes sense. A little bit round.
So if we were going into the case of, let's say, a squat pattern or a squat shape, like what movements are necessary or what parts of the body need to be moving well to be able to squat well?
Yeah, that's probably a good example. So squat well, we need really good ankle movement. Knees and hips usually will do the range pretty well. Sometimes we'll lack a little bit of rotation in the hips that need a little bit more work through there. Pretty important to be able to extend through the spine, particularly the mid-spine. If we're trying to put in the squat, I guess it depends where we're holding the weight too. If you're holding it in front of your body, it's not as important. But if we're trying to do a back squat or something along those lines, it's important for your shoulders to be able to rotate backwards and your spine to extend. And there's functional movement screens that are great for that. A lot of trainers are really well trained in picking up these things. And then if it is limited, being able to modify that to a range where you can do it effectively and not put too much load on one particular joint, and then build up. If we want to go into a deeper squat, having things in your warm-up and things we do at home that start working on that mobility, or with the squat, we start going just a little bit deeper each time rather than going to that end range straight off, because by kicking into that end range, that's when our body kind of goes, oh, hang on, this isn't right. Maybe we need to feel some pain. Where if we slowly edge towards it, it adapts. So it's this really funny thing with our body where as humans, we tend to think more of a good thing's fantastic, but as a body, it's kind of just a little bit more is really good. Too much sometimes can hurt things. And that's kind of a thing we see all through the body with diets and, training loads and sleep and all these kind of things. There's a certain kind of middle ground that's really good. The Goldilocks zone, we sometimes call it. So they're not too hot, not too cold. They're just right. That we're kind of looking to achieve with most things in the body rather than, bang or bust or lots and nothing. It's just trying to find that happy medium. And look, it's harder than it sounds. Right? So sometimes it sounds really easy, but these things are very complex, and that's why you need help to kind of work your way through it and get surrounded by really good people. And it's why elite sports teams spend millions of dollars on trying to work this out. It's a complex area, but we can definitely give you some good general advice to make sure you've got the best chance to get in that area.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, let's move on to maybe a case study around, let's say, the squat to start with. A common challenge with the squat is people experience knee pain. And that's with lunging as well and squat. And I guess when we have to bend the knee, let's say someone came to you and they say, Dan, I'm doing squats and it hurts when I squat. What steps could someone take to try to find out what's happening in their body, the reason why that's happening, and then what they could do about it? What could someone do?
Yeah, and I think you've already jumped to the best step, straight off. They've already presented. They've already come and kind of searched for that answer. They've already popped in to see me. They've already asked the help of someone else to kind of help explore it. And hopefully you're seeing someone that has the knowledge in that area that can kind of help you find that and explore that. Because I think a lot of the times what we do is we kind of feel the pain, that warning sign in the body's kind of going off. We go, oh yeah, and we rest it for a bit and it feels all right. And then we go back and do the same thing again and oh, it's hurting again. And then it keeps going. And our minds are, and brains and pain and all these things set up in a way that if we keep doing it, it's going to keep making you feel more and more pain in the area. Not necessarily damage, sometimes more damage, but yeah, definitely more pain. So what we want to do is, explore why and find that out. And that sometimes that can be done in the gym. In a mild case with the knee, it might be a tweak of positioning and how you're doing that loading, that the trainer can go, oh, actually what you're doing, you're getting your body weight too far forward. We just need to make sure that squat's not driving over the knee as much, and then problem solved. Or it might be, oh, actually, see, we've jumped your program up by 10, 15% 4 days straight here. It's just too much overload. What we need to do is just have a few rest days, let our body adapt, and then come back to it because your technique's right. Or it may be something more, maybe something going on in the hip or the ankle or some other old injury that's kind of limiting us at this stage. And that might be when it's important to, come and see a healthcare professional like an osteophysio, someone like that can kind of really help get to even your GP if you're really kind of concerned, at least rule out some of those nasties and make sure we're on the right track to recovery. But I think listening to your body is a really important thing there. Yeah. And not just kind of ignoring it and thinking rest and come back. That sometimes will work if you did something just a little bit silly as a one-off and fail or whatever it might be. But if it's a repetitive thing you're doing and it's slowly building up, it kind of makes more sense that it might be either technique or body-based. So maybe getting to the bottom of that so you can really achieve the results you're after might be a good move moving forward. Yeah.
Sticking with the knee case study before we move on, I guess we get a lot of people in the challenge that have a previous history of knee or say injury, that be a meniscus tear or other degenerative changes. How limiting do you think like an injury like that might have happened 5 years ago is to that person's ability to be able to do squats, 5 years on from an acute injury such as a meniscus tear?
Yeah, like it's a really interesting question because it could be the most limiting or it could have absolutely no bearing on it at all because our bodies are amazing, as I said, to adapt and heal. So if you know what it is and some people, it's great. They come in and they literally already know, okay, this is what I've got. It's in my knee. I just got to make sure I don't go into a squat below this far and I slowly progress it up and my knee never gives me any issues. And then some people will come in they're like, oh, I did this knee injury. I got an MRI and it was this and now I'm still unsure. So not sure on what to do, not sure on how to manage it, not sure what they can and can't do. And that when you're kind of leaving like that kind of brings us back to our very first point is like, where's the education on this? You're not understanding what's going on. You're not understanding how to better look after your body. It's funny, every other part of our kind of existence will learn how to do things so we can better manage it. But sometimes with the body, we just kind of, because it is so great at healing itself, we just leave it. So yeah, I think it can be very limiting if you're unsure on how to manage that and if it's still causing you restriction and pain and we haven't kind of sorted it out. But it could on the other case. Absolutely no relevance. And there's plenty, when we do scans of elite athletes, there's ridiculous amounts of those kind of people that have lots of degenerative tendons, lots of kind of tears in their knees, lots of all these, and they're some of the most functional people in the world that are really strong and can perform these amazing feats, but they've got these huge issues. So it's part of the picture, but it's not the whole picture. And I think sometimes and even health professionals can be a bit guilty of this, of kind of giving up a little bit to, oh, that's what it is, that's what you've got. But there's lots of stories and lots of like evidence around that we can rehab these and get you back to doing everything you need to do if you're willing to put through, like follow the program, build the strength, follow that advice to those people that you've got in your team.
So in summary, it really comes back down to education, that first step.
Probably that first thing we keep coming back to. It's like, and maybe that's my bias kicking in a little bit, but I think knowing what's going on and like there's something really powerful in that too, that it's like, okay, I get this knee pain, but if I do some work on my lateral hip or outside of my hip before I start and do a few warm-ups or do a few activation works on some muscles, I don't have any troubles. That's very empowering. It's, oh, great, I do this and I get this result. And sooner or later, the body just builds and adapts to this new strength and you don't have to even do that warm-up anymore. But if it's more like, oh, here's some exercises, I don't know why I do them, I did them for a week, I wasn't really sure, and now I've still got this knee. It's the advice was still kind of right in both cases, but without the knowledge of why and how how often and when you got to do it, it just leaves us in this kind of grey zone, I guess.
Yeah.
So, I think that's where we need to take that next step.
Yeah.
As health professionals, as trainers, and as the people and clients kind of trying to get themselves right, like really take ownership of our health here.
Now, you're talking about education and load management and, seeking help, and we're talking about the knee. Would the same principle apply to other parts of the body? So let's say I am doing a deadlift movement and my lower back is always really sore. Would those steps be the same or apply a completely different model to treat another part of the body?
No, I think our body just doesn't see these areas. We kind of name them all different areas because we do. We're people and it's what we do. We put things in categories and things like this. But the body really works as one big unit. So bending over to pick something off the ground in a squat and then your knee's sore is actually the same movement if your back's sore. It's just there's a different area. There's probably more load going through the lower back for one reason or another. And each time we got to discover why and come up with some solutions and work out if it's the loading or if it's how the body's moving or if it's the diet or the recovery or whatever else is kind of kicking into this. It's the great thing about the body. It does the same thing over and over throughout it. We just got to adapt that kind of model, I think, to that as like, okay, it's just giving us some warning signs. Let's have a listen to that and go sort it out and ask some advice. If I don't try and do my own accounting, I ask some advice for people that know a bit more about it than myself, and I go, okay, what do we need to do here? And then they educate me and help me, and I do bits of it and then ask them questions. And it should be a quite similar role with your healthcare professional as, hey, this is what it is. Here's some advice. I'll do some of the technical stuff, and then you go away and do some of these things. And it's a relationship back and forth where we keep working on that.
Yeah. Sticking with back pain, I feel that some people get caught up in this cycle where they need to find someone to fix them. And it sounds like a lot of what you're saying is that education and you're working with somebody to help them manage their own injury. Can you speak a little bit about that and, the importance of that relationship that you keep talking about with your healthcare professional?
Yeah, definitely. And it's probably actually raised a really good question, which I don't want to understate, is like there is a role of modulating this pain and getting it down. When it's sore and everything hurts, there's a role for just, if you're in a lot of pain, anyone that's experienced it, like sometimes we just need to feel better. So there's a whole lot of techniques I do that it's not necessarily to fix things long term, but it's helped to get that pain down short term. So whether that be dry needling, manipulation, massaging of the muscles, stretching things out, painkillers, anti-inflammatory, there's a whole range of things we can do to help try and get that pain down. That's a really important thing. And finding a person that can help you with that's a really important thing. But I guess the next step, and there's lots of people and there's lots of debate over who's the best person to go see that. I'm super biased. I'll say an osteo, but everyone will have their own little spiel on what works best for them. And that's why you get all this information when people go, oh, you got to see my osteo or my chiro or my physio, and all these different people coming in. But ideally, I think that part's great. But the part I want to focus on a little bit more is that next stage of, okay, that warning sign happened. For one reason or another, I've overloaded those tissues. Now do I know why? So I can change it next time it happens. And that's, come back to that education. It's come back to someone that's happy to work with your trainers and with you. That's why I write letters to the trainers after I see patients and kind of educate them on this is what they can do, this is what they can't, this is what we're working towards, obviously with the consent of the patient to work with that. But we start getting a team kind of around people that can work at getting this rather than just I'm very good at making backs and spines manipulate and click and pop and you feel really good after it. But that's good at modulating it, and that'll work for things that you've done a one-off thing wrong and it's just kind of getting the pain down. That's all we have to do. But those repetitive overloady kind of issues, it'll help get down the pain again. But hey, your perfect spine when it got put under that load got sore. Now you've heard it once and we've got the pain down again, you're doing the same. There's probably a fair chance it's going to kick back in again. So we've got to make sure we understand a little bit better than that and have some things that hopefully you can do yourself to help manage that and work with other people to get you through the whole challenge and hit the awesome goals that come out of the back end of training consistently and losing weight and exercising, being strong and being able to live a better life. So if we can get the education out there of how to do that a little bit better, that'd be fantastic.
So do you think there's a benefit to somebody going and seeing a healthcare professional even though they're not in any pain? So for example, if I'm squatting and I'm not in any pain, but I'm limited by something, and that could be like I've hit a plateau or whatever, is there a benefit in going and seeing someone, or should I wait until pain occurs?
Really interesting question again, and hard one to answer a little bit, because it's like pain's our kind of, I suppose, our warning sign that our body gives us, but there's other warning signs that can sometimes kick in earlier, like if you can't do a certain movement at all and can't get into a position to do it and don't know why. That might be a good time to go kind of see someone. There's lots of money spent on functional movement and screening and trying to pre-guess when these injuries are happening. It's not bad, but it's not great. So I'd love to give a clear answer on that one, but potentially is probably where I do see some people come in and go, I just want to know how my body's moving and some areas I could potentially work on. But I usually would like that to be a little bit more goal orientated than that, as rather than just screen my body. It'd be a little bit more like, I'm having difficulty getting into a deep squat, or I'm having difficulty getting my arm right back, or there's some kind of limitation, or I want some more education on the best way to progressively load this part of my spine, or whatever it is, rather than it just being, just check me out. I'm not sure if that's got the greatest role. That will be debated. There's a lot of people that do a lot of movement screening and testing and do have some great results on preventing injuries. But there's it's again, that bit's probably a little bit more grey. It's more when you're finding limitation or finding you're a bit stiff and sore, kind of trying to get to the bottom of that. It's probably a nice place to kind of start.
Do you think there are any other warning signs in the body other than pain that could be the first signs of a potential injury happening? And that could be something like poor sleep or feeling lots of fatigue. Do you think there are any big warning signs that people could look out for?
Yeah, like there definitely is with things around heart rate variability now that you can look at. There's things like, the amount of sleep you're having. There's the post kind of soreness you're having after a certain thing. As we talked about before, there's that load that you've done over the last 3 months. So if you hadn't done any training and you're coming into you've got to be a little bit more cautious than someone that's been training for years on end. That starts getting really, really technical to kind of measure. But if you're feeling really sore and fatigue and lethargic and not ready to get into maybe there could be a reason with that. And that might be a time to kind of ask your trainer or ask your healthcare professional a little bit more about that. And we can kind of see, okay, are you going into a thing we're calling training overload, which is too much training? And maybe we need to focus a little bit more on like some meditation, some rest, some relaxing, some making sure you're getting a good night's sleep. Those kind of things a little bit more might help. But a lot of the time that starts to kick into probably a slightly different area to what I tend to see, which is kind of the injury management movement. That's probably more your exercise physiologists, exercise scientists that get really excited by that kind of area of things. And it's trying to guess it early. But there is, I think if you're not feeling quite right, that's always might be a time to just ask someone and they might say, no, that's normal. Or, okay, let's look into that a little bit more. Let's do some blood tests or whatever it might be. So.
Do you have any final tips that you can offer anyone who's listening to this who is completing the 12-week challenge or about to start the Maxine 12-week challenge? Do you have any tips for them to get the most out of their new exercise program and improve their overall health?
Yeah, enjoy it, love it. Don't feel it's slow. It's going to take that whole time to get through. It's you're going to have to start at the start and work your way through to the end. So make sure you're getting this injury management stuff right and not going too hard too soon. Get your diet right, get your sleep right, and just enjoy it. And just you'll get to the end, and then all of a sudden it's like, even if it's little changes, it'll be hopefully some really fantastic ones for life, and then that can snowball into some awesome stuff. But if you're starting a challenge, you've kind of made the first step, but just take it easy to start with. It's a bit more of a longer term hopeful change than just a quick challenge and done. That I love seeing that kind of long term change and constantly adapting over hopefully the rest of your life moving forward from now.
Great stuff. Dan, if someone's listening to this and they wanted to reach out to you or get some help with their movement, where can they find you?
Probably a little bit too far away. down the road in Geelong. Yeah, so I've got my own clinic down there. I'm on Instagram now, Geelong Osteo. Just Google Daniel Wood Osteo in Geelong and I'll come up. Awesome. But other than that, there's lots of fantastic ones all around the Melbourne area, which is really good. And if you can get some recommendations off friends and things like that, it's a good way to find people. It's how we've worked forever. So, hey, you ask the guys in the gym or the girls in the gym, who do you see, who works well with you guys? They've got that relationship. It's always good. But, just making sure you find someone that's, I suppose, helping you out and working and moving forward, not just kind of in, out, not really looking at that long-term goal for you.
Awesome. Great stuff. Daniel, thanks so much for donating some of your time to be part of the Challenge podcast.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks Thanks for listening, guys. If you like the show, share it with a friend or leave us a review on iTunes to help us spread the good word.
See you next time.